My name is Daniel Reyes, and I was the least important person in the room the day I married a princess. That is what everyone believed, anyway. I let them believe it for a long time, because the truth was not mine to give away for free. I was a supply coordinator on Velora Station when I first saw her. Not a soldier, not a diplomat, just a man who counted crates and signed manifests for a living. The Velorans are a beautiful people, if you ask most of the galaxy. Their skin carries a soft blue shimmer that glows brighter when they are happy, dimmer when they are sad. It is considered the mark of a healthy, desirable Veloran. The brighter you shine, the more admired you are. Princess Sarah did not shine at all. Her skin stayed a flat, quiet gray, no matter what she felt. The healers called it a defect. The court called it an embarrassment. Her own people, from the servants to the nobles, spoke about her like she was a stain on an otherwise perfect family. I heard them say it in the hallways, in the markets, even once in front of her, as if she could not understand her own language. I did not see a defect. I saw a woman who sat perfectly still during long council meetings, while everyone else fidgeted with impatience. I saw someone who read every report twice before speaking, who asked sharp questions nobody expected, who never once needed to glow to prove she was paying attention. To a human, she was not ugly. She was simply calm in a way that unsettled people who were used to being able to read feelings on skin like a weather report. We met properly at a supply audit, of all places. She had come to check on food shipments for a border settlement, and I was the only person available to walk her through the numbers. She asked better questions than the trade officials twice her age. I answered honestly, without flattery, because I did not know yet that she was a princess. By the time I found out, it was too late. I already liked her. It took 2 years before either of us said anything about it out loud. It took another year before her father, King Halvorn, called me into his private chamber and asked me, without any warmth in his voice, whether I intended to marry his daughter. I said yes. He studied me for a long moment, the way a man studies a tool he is not sure will hold. Then he said something I did not understand at the time. He said, "Then you will keep her safe in a way none of us can." I thought it was simply a father's blessing wrapped in strange words. I did not question it. I should have. The wedding was small, quiet, held away from the council's attention. But word travels fast in a galaxy full of bored diplomats. And soon enough, everyone knew that the king's gray daughter had married a human. I did not think much of the reaction at first. Humans marry outside their own worlds all the time. But I quickly learned that most council members did not see it as a marriage of love. They saw it as a mercy. I remember standing at my first council reception as her husband, listening to 2 Dravith delegates whisper behind their translators, thinking I could not understand their dialect. They were wrong. I had spent 3 years learning it for trade work. They called her the gray shame of Velora, and said it was fitting that a species with such simple taste would take what no one else wanted. I smiled and said nothing. Sarah stood beside me, her skin as calm and gray as ever, and I felt her hand tighten slightly around mine. She had heard it all before, I had not. That night, I asked her why she never explained herself to them, why she let them believe she was simply unlucky. She looked at me for a long time before she answered. Because the moment they understand what I am, she said, I stop being safe. I did not press her further that night, but I started paying closer attention. Over the following months, I noticed small things. Guards who were a little too careful around her. Healers who visited more often than any normal complaint would require. A private security detail that answered only to the king, not to the general court guard. I noticed that certain rooms in the palace were never assigned to her, no matter how convenient they would have been. I noticed that her father watched her, the way a man watches something valuable, not something broken. One evening, after a long day of trade negotiations, Sarah finally told me the truth. Her skin, she explained, did not fail to glow. It could not glow, because of a rare condition passed down only once every several generations in her bloodline. That condition did something else entirely. It made her immune to a toxin called verithin, a compound so lethal to normal Velorans that a single trace of it in the air could kill an entire room within minutes. Verithin was not natural. It was a weapon, banned by treaty, but still quietly manufactured by certain ambitious houses who wanted an advantage over rivals without the mess of open conflict. A Veloran exposed to it would collapse almost instantly. their glow fading to black before they even understood what was happening. There was no known cure. There was, until Sarah, no known survivor. Her body simply did not react to it. Scientists who studied her case, quietly and without public record, believed her condition also meant she carried something in her blood that could eventually be used to protect others from the same toxin, if properly understood. That knowledge alone made her one of the most valuable people in Valoran space. Not because of her title, because of her blood. Her father had not married her off out of pity. He had married her to someone from a species with no interest in politics, no ambition for her bloodline, and virtually no chance of being manipulated by rival houses who might want to use her as a weapon or a shield. Humans were, to most of the galaxy, unimportant enough to overlook. That made me the perfect protector, not because I was strong, but because no one thought I mattered enough to guard something so valuable. I finally understood the weight behind the king's words. He had not been asking me to marry his daughter. He had been asking me to hide her in plain sight. I told her I understood now. She said that was exactly why she had waited to tell me. She did not want me to treat her differently once I knew. She wanted, just once in her life, to be looked at the way I already looked at her, without any of it changing. I told her nothing had changed. It hadn't. Word of Verithan stockpiles being moved near a neighboring system reached the council 2 months later. Officially, it was reported as a shipping error. Unofficially, several trade officials who dealt in banned weapons had gone very quiet, and a Valoran noble house known for its rivalry with the king's bloodline had suddenly taken a great deal of interest in medical research opportunities involving royal family members. I did not need a security briefing to understand what that meant. I requested, quietly, that our travel schedule change. Sarah, ever calm, told me I was overreacting. I told her I would rather overreact than explain to her father why I had not. 3 days later, during what should have been a routine diplomatic dinner, a small canister was found hidden near the private dining hall we were meant to use. It had not yet been triggered. Palace security caught it in time, thanks in part to a schedule change no one outside our staff knew about. When the investigation quietly traced its origin back to the noble house that had shown medical research interest in Sarah, the council could no longer pretend nothing unusual was happening. For the first time, Sarah's condition was explained to the full council, not by gossip, but by fact. Her healers presented the findings plainly. Her immunity was real. Her value, both as a person and as a potential key to defeating one of the deadliest banned weapons in known space, was undeniable. I watched the same delegates who had once mocked her gray skin go very quiet. The Dravith pair who had called her a shame did not meet my eyes at all during that session. I did not gloat. I did not need to. The truth did a better job of humbling them than I ever could have. After the session, King Halvorn approached me in the hallway, something rare for him. He did not thank me with grand words. He simply said that he had chosen well, both for his daughter's safety and for her happiness, and that he was glad the second part had not been an accident. I told him it wasn't. I had never once thought of her as something to be managed or protected out of duty. I had simply seen her clearly, long before I understood why that mattered to anyone else. That night, Sarah and I sat together on the balcony, overlooking the palace gardens, away from council chambers and hallway whispers. Her skin, as always, stayed calm and gray in the moonlight. I told her I thought it was the most honest color I had ever seen, because it never lied about how she felt, just to please a room full of strangers. She smiled, the kind of smile that no scanner or bioluminescent chart could measure, and told me that was exactly why she had never needed to shine for anyone. I did not marry a princess because the galaxy told me she was lucky to have me. I did not marry her because I felt sorry for a woman the council called unwanted. I married her because I saw a mind sharper than half the council combined, a courage that never needed to be announced, and a quiet strength that outlasted every insult thrown her way. The council learned, eventually, what her father had known from the beginning, that the woman they mocked was never the weak one in the room. She was simply the only one who never needed to prove it.